Once you understand the core steps of getting things done, the real mastery comes from how you bring those steps to life each day. The tips, tricks, and insights in this section are the small refinements that make a big difference. The habits that keep your system light, flexible, and trustworthy. From minimizing inbox friction and clarifying next actions, to keeping project outcomes visible and simplifying your tools, these practices turn GTD from a method into a mindset. They're the practical shortcuts that help you maintain clarity, flow, and focus in a busy world.
One of the practical secrets to making getting things done work in daily life is minimizing inbox friction. The inbox is at the heart of step 1, capture. It is the intake valve of your system, the place where everything that has your attention is stored temporarily until it can be clarified and organized. The smoother and more accessible your inboxes are, the more consistently you will capture. And the more consistently you capture, the more you will trust your system. Inbox friction happens when capturing is awkward, slow, or inconvenient. If it takes too much effort to jot down an idea, forward an email, or place a note in the right spot, your brain will resist. Instead, you will hold the thought in your head, promising yourself you will write it down later, and often you won't. That is how open loops leak out of the system and stress creeps back in. To minimize inbox friction, you want to make capturing as easy and seamless as possible. Keep a small notebook or pocket pad with you wherever you go, or use a notes app or voice memo tool on your phone. Position a physical in-tray within arm's reach of where you work so papers, receipts, and letters have a place to land. Configure your email client so you can quickly send items to a processing folder. Many people set up a single digital capture tool that integrates with their calendar, task manager, or cloud storage so they can throw things in quickly and sort them out later. Another best practice is to reduce the number of inboxes. You want enough to be practical, but not so many that they become scattered and unmanageable. A handful of trusted inboxes, each one easy to use, is far better than a dozen half-forgotten ones. The test is simple. If something crosses your mind, how fast can you get it into the system? If the answer is within seconds, your inbox setup is serving you well. Minimizing inbox friction is about designing for capture. It's about lowering the barrier so that your brain never hesitates. Once you make it effortless, capturing becomes second nature. Over time, this practice dramatically increases the reliability of your system. The less energy it takes to capture, the more you will capture. And the more you capture, the more peace of mind you will enjoy. In short, minimizing inbox friction is a small adjustment with a huge payoff. It ensures that GTD doesn't just live in theory, but works in the flow of your everyday life.
One of the most time-saving micro-practices in GTD is batching tasks by context. Context means the situation, tools, or resources required to complete an action. For example, some tasks require a phone, some require a computer, some require being in a store or at home. By grouping similar actions together, you minimize the cost of switching gears and maximize your efficiency. Imagine you have 10 calls to make. If you try to spread them across the day, each one forces you to stop what you're doing, find the number, and get back into call mode. But if you batch them on a single calls list, you can make all 10 in one sitting. The same is true for computer tasks, errands, or things to discuss with a particular person. Batching by context also takes advantage of natural constraints. If you're stuck waiting in an airport with only your phone, you can pull out your calls or anywhere list and make progress. If you're tired and have low energy, you can scan for simple tasks. GTD transforms idle or low-quality time into productive moments by having context-based lists ready. The beauty of this practice is that it aligns with how the real world works. We are not always in the right place with the right tools to do everything. By accepting this and designing around it, GTD allows you to be productive without overthinking. Batching by context is about working smarter, It lets you handle similar actions in one focused burst, saves you from decision fatigue, and turns scraps of time into meaningful progress. Clarifying next actions is a micro-habit that eliminates procrastination and creates momentum. Many people stall because their to-do lists are vague. Work on presentation or plan party are not actions, they are projects. When you face an ambiguous item, your brain resists because it doesn't know what to do first. The GTD solution is to always define the very next physical action required. Instead of work on presentation, you decide draft outline for slides. Instead of plan party, you write call Sarah to confirm guest list. The difference seems small, but it is profound. A vague item is a source of stress. A clear action is a trigger for progress. Defining next actions also builds focus. It shifts you from abstract intention to concrete behavior. It answers the question, what's the very next thing I can do to move this forward? Over time, this habit trains you to think in terms of physical outcomes and practical steps. The practice also sharpens project thinking. When you consistently define next actions, you naturally identify when something is really a project and belongs on your projects list. This keeps your system tidy and realistic. Clarifying next actions is a discipline, but once internalized, it becomes second nature. It transforms overwhelming commitments into manageable steps and removes the friction that leads to procrastination. Checklists are another simple but powerful GTD practice. They are the antidote to repeated mistakes and wasted energy. A checklist captures a repeatable process, so you don't have to reinvent it each time. Consider travel. Without a checklist, you might pack differently every trip and risk forgetting essentials. With a packing checklist, you save time, reduce stress, and gain confidence. The same applies to work processes, weekly staff meetings, monthly reports, or onboarding a new employee. Once you've created a checklist, you can execute consistently without relying on memory. Checklists also free up mental bandwidth. When routine tasks are written down, your brain can focus on higher-level thinking. They help standardize quality, speed up execution, and provide safety nets in complex or stressful situations. Allen encourages creating checklists for any process you repeat. They don't have to be complicated. A simple list in your notebook or app is enough. The key is to externalize the routine so your mind is free for the creative and the unexpected. Checklists embody the GTD philosophy. Don't rely on memory, build trusted systems. By capturing repeatable processes once, you gain freedom forever. One of the most powerful yet overlooked insights in getting things done is the importance of keeping project outcomes visible. In GTD, a project is defined as any outcome that requires more than one action step. That might be something large, like launch new website, or something small, like buy new tires for the car. What matters is that the project represents a commitment to achieve a specific result. The problem is that most people list projects in vague or open-ended terms. They write website, report, or party, which leaves the mind unsettled. The brain resists because the outcome is not clearly defined. Ambiguity breeds procrastination. GTD solves this by reframing projects into clear, concrete, done states. Instead of website, you write website launched and live. Instead of report, you write annual report submitted. Instead of party, you write birthday party successfully hosted. Why does this matter? Because the brain is motivated by clear outcomes. When you keep project outcomes visible, you create a mental image of completion. This acts as both a compass and a source of energy. It tells you where you're heading, and it inspires the actions needed to get there. Without visibility, projects blur into the background. With visibility, They stay alive and actionable. Alan recommends keeping a projects list that is always up to date and always reviewed, especially during your weekly review. This list should include every current project, each phrased as a finished outcome. By scanning it regularly, you maintain a dashboard of your commitments. You remind yourself of what you've chosen to achieve and ensure that each project has at least one clear next action moving it forward. Keeping outcomes visible also prevents overwhelm. When your projects are written as vague categories, they feel endless and heavy. When written as done states, they feel achievable. They give you permission to stop when the outcome is reached instead of drifting endlessly. In practice, this insight is about clarity. The clearer your project outcomes, the more motivated you will be. The easier it will be to define next actions, and the more satisfying it will be to complete them. By keeping project outcomes visible, you align your daily actions with meaningful results and ensure steady progress across all areas of your life. Another cornerstone practice in GTD is emptying to zero. This applies to inboxes of every kind: your email, your physical in-tray, your notes app, or even your mind. The principle is simple. Inboxes are temporary holding spots, not storage. They must be cleared regularly, ideally to zero. Emptying to zero does not mean doing everything immediately. It means clarifying what each item is and moving it to the right place. Some things are actionable and become next actions, delegated items, or calendar entries. Some are non-actionable and go to reference, trash, or someday maybe. What matters is that nothing stays unprocessed in the inbox. Why is this so powerful? Because inboxes left unattended quickly become black holes. A dozen messages becomes 100, 100 becomes 1,000, and soon the system collapses under its own weight. When your inbox is full, your brain stops trusting it, and you slip back into mental overload. By contrast, when you practice emptying to zero, you experience relief and clarity. You know that every email's been dealt with, every piece of paper has been reviewed, every idea has been acknowledged. You can relax because nothing is lurking in a pile or hiding in a folder. Emptying to zero builds momentum. The feeling of inbox zero is not just about organization, it's about psychological release. It says, I'm current, I'm in control, and I can focus fully on what matters next. A common trap when adopting getting things done is overcomplicating the tools. Because GTD is flexible and tool agnostic, it can be implemented with anything from pen and paper to advanced digital apps. Yet many people fall into the illusion that the perfect tool will solve their productivity challenges. They spend hours comparing software, tweaking features, and customizing systems, instead of actually doing the work. David Allen is clear: the methodology is more important than the medium. Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, and engage can happen with a notepad and a folder just as effectively as with the most sophisticated app. The real power comes from consistently applying the habits, not from the technology used. A complex setup often creates friction, slows you down, and makes the system harder to trust. The best tool is the one you trust, use easily, and can access quickly in the context you need it. For some, that's a leather notebook. For others, it's a task manager app synced across devices. The test is simple. Does the tool make capturing and organizing faster and easier, or does it create resistance? If it creates resistance, it is the wrong tool, or it is being over-engineered. Overcomplicating tools also leads to a hidden danger: procrastination disguised as productivity. Tweaking settings, color-coding projects, or endlessly restructuring lists can feel productive, but often delays real action. GTD emphasizes clarity and simplicity. Enough structure to hold commitments reliably, but not so much that the system becomes a burden. Allen suggests starting simple. Use a few inboxes, a calendar, and some lists. Once the habits are solid, you can evolve your tools if needed. but the goal is always to minimize friction, not add to it. In short, don't overcomplicate your tools. Focus on building the habits of GTD first. Simplicity builds trust, and trust builds consistency. A simple, reliable system beats a complex, fragile one every time.
Delegation and Collaboration, GTD in Shared Systems. GTD principles apply just as powerfully in teams as they do for individuals. Delegation and collaboration become effortless when everyone operates from a shared understanding of clarity and accountability. At the team level, the GTD loop still applies. Capture, clarify, organize, reflect, engage. Inputs come from meetings, emails, and shared chat channels. Teams capture decisions and requests in shared tools, such as Asana, Microsoft Teams, Notion, or Trello. They then clarify each item, asking, is this actionable, and who owns the next action? Ownership is the key to clarity. Next, the team organizes, assigning due dates, tagging contexts, and linking items to relevant projects. The team's waiting for list tracks delegated items, so nothing slips through the cracks. Reflection happens in weekly team check-ins, the collective version of the weekly review. Everyone ensures that lists are up to date, projects have next actions, and no open loops are left unattended. Finally, teams engage by acting with confidence, knowing that what's on the shared list reflects current reality. The result is a culture of trust, clarity, and follow-through. Delegation stops being a black hole and becomes a transparent flow of commitments. GTD, when embedded into shared systems, turns team collaboration from chaos into calm coordination. Common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Like any system, GTD works best when the fundamentals are practiced with consistency. Most people who struggle with GTD aren't failing at the methodology, they're falling into a few predictable traps. Understanding these pitfalls and how to avoid them is key to maintaining a trusted system that feels light, clear, and usable. The first and most common pitfall is skipping the weekly review. Without it, your lists go stale and trust evaporates. The weekly review is not an optional tidy-up. It's the heartbeat of the system. It's when you reconnect your commitments with reality. Schedule it as a non-negotiable ritual. Protect that time the way you would a meeting with your most important client, yourself. The second pitfall is having too many inboxes. If you capture things into too many places, you create more work for yourself and increase the risk of losing information. The solution is simplicity. Just a handful of trusted inboxes that are easy to access and regularly emptied. The fewer capture points you have, the faster you can process them. Another trap is overcomplicating tools. GTD is about behavior, not software. Fancy apps and automation can be seductive, but they often add friction instead of reducing it. Keep your tools simple, fast, and intuitive. The goal is flow, not perfection. A fourth pitfall is mixing reference material with action lists. When you blur the line between what you need to do and what you just want to keep, clarity disappears. Keep clean boundaries. Actions in one place, reference material in another. That way, your task lists remain actionable and your reference system stays searchable. Then there's the habit of ignoring the someday maybe list. People either forget it exists or avoid it because it reminds them of ideas they haven't acted on. But this list is not a graveyard, it's a creative playground. Review it regularly to harvest fresh ideas and release guilt about what you're not doing right now. Finally, the subtle but deadly pitfall of vague next actions. When you leave tasks ambiguous, like work on report, your brain hesitates. Clarify every action so it's visible and physical. Draft outline for report introduction is clear, doable, and motivating.
Avoiding these pitfalls is not about being perfect, it's about staying conscious. GTD is a living system, and small adjustments keep it alive. When you review weekly, simplify your tools, maintain clear lists, and define concrete actions, you'll find the system feels lighter, faster, and more trustworthy.
Example metrics for a trusted GTD system. A powerful aspect of getting things done is that it can be measured, not in how much you do, but in how confidently you manage what you've chosen to do. GTD is about building a trusted system, and trust can be gauged through simple, meaningful indicators. The first and most visible metric is inbox zero. Not perfection, but a consistent rhythm of processing everything that comes in. When your physical and digital inboxes are empty, it signals that nothing is being held in limbo. It's a measure of clarity. Next is the weekly review completion rate. This is the heartbeat of your system. A high completion rate means your lists stay current and your commitments remain trustworthy. If you skip reviews, trust fades fast. If you keep them sacred, your sense of control grows. Another key measure is the percentage of open loops captured. When ideas, obligations, and commitments are consistently recorded rather than remembered, mental clutter decreases. You can test this by noticing how often a thought pops up twice. If it does, your capture process may need tightening. Track also the number of stale or outdated items in your lists. A growing backlog of irrelevant tasks means your system is losing freshness. During your reviews, prune ruthlessly. What's complete, delete. What's irrelevant, archive. What's active, clarify. Beyond quantitative measures, there's a qualitative one, your clarity or control rating. Simply ask yourself once a week, on a scale of 1 to 10, how in control do I feel? Your subjective sense of ease is often the truest metric of all. Finally, reflect on alignment. Are your actions and projects clearly linked to your goals, vision, and purpose? When daily actions support higher-level intentions, the system feels coherent and trustworthy. These metrics are not about performance pressure, they're about awareness. They show where friction hides and where trust leaks out. By measuring clarity, consistency, and alignment, you can strengthen your GTD practice and maintain the peace of mind that makes stress-free productivity possible. So this brings us to the end of this section, in which we discussed GTD tips, tricks, and insights. In the next section, we will review some examples of using GTD in practice across a range of use cases. We look forward to seeing you there.